a world in which women have achieved safety from the things they have feared, and have become even more objectified and victimized in the process. Margaret Atwood was one of the first writers to send up the alarm about the potential for the burgeoning women's rights movement to be turned against them. As Atwood herself said in the 1989 interview, "When people get scared enough, they'll agree to all kinds of things they wouldn't agree to before. Things we will see through the eyes of one of society's lowest creatures, a handmaid." The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This is a district salvaging. It was announced yesterday. They tell you only the day before. It's not enough time to get used to it. We walk along the paths, past buildings that were once lecture halls and dormitories. But these buildings belong to the eyes now. We file onto the wide lawn in front of what used to be the library. There's a wooden stage erected on the lawn, something like the one they used for commencement every spring. I think of hats, pastel hats worn by some of the mothers, and the black gowns the students would put on, and 3 wooden posts that stand on it with loops of rope. I've only been to one of these before. Women's salvagings are not frequent. These days, we are so well behaved. I don't want to be telling this story. I kneel on my red velvet cushion. I try to think about tonight, about making love in the dark, in the light reflected off the white walls. I remember being held. On the stage to the left is she who is to be salvaged. She sways a little. She's probably been given injections or pills so she won't make a fuss. Now the official procession is approaching the stage. They turn towards us, the aunt flanked by the 2 black-robed salvagers. It's Aunt Lydia. An odd strangling sound comes over the PA system. She's clearing her throat. "Good afternoon, ladies. I'm sure we are all aware of the unfortunate circumstances that bring us all here together on this beautiful morning. But duty is hard, and it is in the name of duty that we are here today. The salvagings will proceed without further ado." A collective murmur goes up from us. The crimes of others are a secret language among us. Through them, we show ourselves what we might be capable of after all. The woman is brought forward. She walks 1 foot, the other foot. There's a groggy, off-center smile on her mouth. The 2 salvagers tie her hands behind her back. I've seen it before. The white bag placed over the head. The woman helped up onto the high stool. The noose adjusted delicately around the neck, like a vestment. The stool kicked away. I have seen Aunt Lydia place her hand over the mic to stifle any other sound coming from behind her. I have seen the kicking feet and the 2 in black who now sees all the women dragged downward with all their weight. I don't want to see it anymore. The body hangs there, even with the white sack over the head looking curiously stretched. Like a chicken strung up in a meat shop window. Like a bird with its wings clipped. Like a flightless bird. A wrecked angel. Today's salvaging is now concluded, but you may stand up and form a circle. She's talking to us, the handmaids. I don't want to be at the front or the back either. I'm not sure what's coming, though I sense it won't be anything I want to see up close. I've heard rumors, which I only half believe. Despite everything I already know, I tell myself they wouldn't go that far. You know the rules for a participation. You will wait until I blow the whistle. After that, what you do is up to you. Until I blow the whistle again. Understood? Two guardians come forward now from behind the stage. Between them, they half carry, half drag a third man. His face is cut and bruised. The flesh is swollen and knobby. It doesn't look like a face, but like a mangled ball that's grown wrong. This man has been convicted of rape. The penalty for rape, as you know, is death. Deuteronomy 22. I might add that this crime was brutal. I will not offend your ears with any details except to say that the woman was pregnant and the baby died. Despite myself, I feel my hands clench. It's true, there is bloodlust. I want to tear, gouge, rend. We jostle forward, our nostrils flare, sniffing death. We look at one another, seeing the hatred. The man's head swivels groggily around. Has he even heard her? Aunt Lydia waits a moment, and she gives a little smile and raises her whistle to her lips. We hear it, shrill and silver, an echo from a volleyball game of long ago. The two guardians let go of the third man's arms and step back. He staggers and falls to his knees. He raises one hand to his cheek, as though to feel if he is still there. It could have been, I know that. It could have been, could be Nick. I know whatever he's done, I can't touch him. He says something. It comes out thick as if his throat is bruised, his tongue huge in his mouth, but I hear it anyway. He says, I didn't. There's a surge forward like a crowd at the rock concert in the former time. The air is bright with adrenaline, and we are permitted anything. And this is freedom. One woman is shoving to the front, propelling herself with her elbows. She pushes him down sideways, then kicks his head viciously. 1, 2, 3 times, sharp, painful jabs with the foot, well aimed. Now there are sounds, gasps, a low noise like growling. He's obscured by fists, arms, feet. A high-pitched scream comes from somewhere. Like a horse in terror. He has become it. Aunt Lydia blows her whistle again, but they don't stop at once. The two guardians move in, pulling them off from what's left. You will find your partners and reform your line. Few pay attention to her. A woman comes towards us, walking as if she's feeling her way in the dark. There's a smear of blood across her cheek. She's holding something tightly in her right hand. It's a clump of blonde hair. The smell makes me feel sick. This has made me sick. But I'm also hungry. Death makes me hungry. Maybe it's because I've been empty, or maybe it's the body's way of seeing to it that I remain alive and keep repeating my bedrock prayer. I am. I am. I am. Still. I would rather believe in an imperfect God than an evil one. And yet, when I look at this beautiful world made of butchery and carnage, I can only see a lovely work of art gone terribly wrong. Wrong in its conception and wrong in its very genesis. And so spoke Eve in Don Negro's Genesis, where Eve ponders her own creation and eventual banishment from the garden, which ultimately leads to her belief in the futility of mankind's existence. Eve, by Don Negro. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. I love the words, in the beginning. I was not born a child. I had the body of a young woman, but I had the mind, not of a child, exactly, because somehow I was born knowing certain things I didn't realize I knew until I needed them. But there was this eerie, unmistakable certainty nagging at me that I had come into the garden from this other place, and it was fading away. That warm sun, the pressure of it on my body. The sun was caressing me, and the sun was God. And there was Adam, getting between me and the sun, and I forgot. I was curious. I wanted to know things, and I wondered things. I remember shocking Adam, the poor Adam, who had never an idea in his life. He could not understand why I was always wanting to investigate things. Like a little monkey, he said, but I couldn't help it. Like the two trees, one the tree of life, and the other the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And Adam said we were supposed to stay away from them. But why? Then, alone in the garden, I became aware something was watching me. The only beast in the garden that had frightened me. The serpent. Why do you not sample the fruit of the tree of knowledge? I told him the Lord of the garden had forbidden it, but the voice then began asking me, but I didn't know why, because I'd asked myself the very same question. And then the voice gave me an answer. The Lord of the garden is afraid of you. The Creator? Afraid of me? His own creation? But that is what the voice said. He said the Lord of the garden was afraid that if we ate of the tree of knowledge, we would be brave enough to eat of the tree of life and live forever and be creator gods, like the Lord of the garden himself. It was a stunning thought. The Lord of the garden would fear us so much that he wanted us to be stupid. How very unfair of him. So I listened to the serpent, and I went to the tree. And I tasted some of its fruit. God, it was wonderful. It was like a drug. It was intoxicating, like a gigantic hallucinogen in which for a moment I seemed to see all things and know all things. And then I looked up, and Adam was standing there, watching me, horrified. I wanted him to understand, so I held out the bit of fruit and looked at him. Just looked at him. juice of it dripping down my chin and down my stomach. Then, as if in a dream, he took the food and bit into it where I had bitten. And he looked at me. His eyes went wide, and we clutched each other, trying to stand, and fell. And it was in that drunken embrace, in our madness and intoxication, drunk with the fruit of the tree of knowledge, that we found ourselves pressing our mouths together madly, and I felt what seemed like the serpent crawl up me. It was strange and horrible and wonderful. We lay there in the foliage, and I was ashamed. I had never been ashamed before. I looked at my body, and it seemed strange, like I was looking at it for the first time. And suddenly feeling sick, I began insanely grabbing leaves, ripping handfuls of them off of young trees, and covering myself. Adam saw me and did the same. We sat there, miserable, not touching. And then we heard it. The sound of someone walking in the garden, and we saw a shadow pass through the trees, and we were terrified. And then the walking stopped, and the shadow was still, and Adam began to panic. He said, "It wasn't my fault. I didn't mean to do it. She told me to do it. I'm sorry. I won't do it again." And I just sat there, embarrassed at his fear. I know that the guilt is supposed to be ours, and a lot of it is supposed to be mine. But more and more, I have come to reject this. It isn't wrong to want to know things. It isn't wrong to want to live life as fully and as completely as one can. The Lord of the garden created us for some reason. What was he trying to learn? Does this mean that he doesn't know everything? Then he is not all-knowing and thus not all-powerful. If God is not evil and not stupid, he must be very lonely and very afraid. God is a creator who created out of his own desperate loneliness, just as Adam and I have created a family out of our loneliness and the need for the illusion of company. And this will no doubt go on until God gets fed up with the entire grotesque process and finally destroys it. Sweeps it off the table like a ship in a bottle, and it will crash onto the floor, and everything will be over.
I was 17 in the summer of 1972. Perhaps if I'd been older, or wiser for sure, or if it had been a year, or even 6 months later, things would have turned out differently. But it wasn't, and they didn't. Fish Creek, Wisconsin was not a good place to be 17 and pregnant, especially in 1972. Good girls did not get pregnant in Fish Creek. Good girls went to church, obeyed their parents, got good grades, and planned for college. I was afraid my parents would be ashamed, that I wouldn't even finish high school, let alone be able to get a music scholarship to UW-Madison. No, I had to take care of it, and fast. Even in the early 1970s, when abortion was legal in some states, legal abortion was simply out of reach for many. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimates that in 1972 alone in the U.S., 130,000 women obtained illegal or self-induced procedures, and 39 died. Historically, women around the world have tried to end unwanted pregnancies, whether abortion was legal or not, often jeopardizing their health and safety by self-inducing or seeking a dangerous illegal procedure. The World Health Organization reported in February of 2019 that unsafe abortion is common in places where abortion is illegal, and where abortion remains unsafe, it is a leading cause of maternal mortality. In an interview with Literary Hub on November 11, 2019, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, "My idea of how choice should have developed was not a privacy notion, not a doctor's right notion, but a woman's right to control her own destiny, to be able to make choices without a big brother state telling her what she can and cannot do." Unfortunately, Roe v. Wade came too late for many and may end too soon for others. In 1972, I grip the seat in front of me as the bus rumbles over the rough roads. I can see the western shores of Lake Michigan from my window. The feeling of exhilaration quickly becomes a distant memory as sickness overcomes me. I lay my head against the window, closing my eyes, letting the scenes from the past few months rush behind my closed eyelids. We've been together over a year, and we were, well, I thought we were in love. And it was prom night. And just once, just that once, waves of emotion swamped me. Disbelief, fear, shame. My parents worked and sacrificed to give me the life I had. How was I supposed to throw it all away because of an unplanned pregnancy? I worked so hard on my academics, extracurriculars, and music lessons so I could be whatever I wanted to be. But pregnant wasn't one of those things. We are halfway there. My stomach continues to grow more queasy. I question what I am doing, but I know this is my only option, my only chance to reach my dreams, or at least be accomplished before motherhood. You see, I was so naive I didn't realize I was pregnant until 10 weeks along. Of all the places to discover my faith, it had to be Bible camp. I was counseling 9 and 10-year-olds, encouraging honesty and morality, and I realized I hadn't missed one, but 2 periods. I finished out the week even though fear and shame clouded me each day. The bus continues to shake as it rolls over the winding hillsides. I look down at the bills clenched tightly in my hand. 20s, 10s, and 1s, meticulously organized after a summer of hard work. My heart fills with sorrow as I think of the dreams I'd hoped this money would be invested in. Tuck the bills neatly back into my pocket and lay my head back. My mind begins to wander back to the summer spent working alongside my parents at their bed and breakfast. I was in a room removing bedding when I overheard the sound of a couple fighting.
I made some phone calls. They say it's $150 if you're still in the first trimester, $350 for 13 to 16 weeks if there aren't any complications. I don't want an abortion. We can barely support ourselves, let alone a child. You have to. I told you, I'm not doing it.
The door slammed, and their footsteps sounded down the hall towards the checkout counter. Later that day, as I was cleaning their room, I noticed a wadded-up piece of paper on the floor. It gave me all the information I needed to get an abortion. Fish Creek is only 180 miles from Milwaukee, and a bus ticket is only $11.25. I pulled from my pocket the instructions the nurse had sent me and reread. I follow them to the letter and find a plain black Buick waiting at the corner. A voice in my ear tells me not to turn around, to just get into the back seat. I open the door and hesitantly step in. Are you the nurse I spoke with? Yes. Do you have the money? Here put this on. It's for the doctor's protection. We have to know you can't give our location to anyone later on.
Okay.
Where are we? I think I'm gonna be sick. Are we there? What's that smell? Where are you taking me? I'm sorry, but we can't be too careful. Remove the blindfold and follow me. Why are we in a kitchen? Get undressed and lie on the table. We should be ready to begin soon. Breathe. Just breathe. It should all be over with soon. It's going to be okay. Just breathe. It's so cold in here. There's nothing to cover up with. Is that blood? Or are those instruments rusted? Is that some type of scissors? Wait, is that a kitchen knife? Who are you? Are you the doctor? What is that on your jacket? Everything's ready, doctor. Good. Let's make this quick. Knife. Hold her down. What are you doing? Stop! Please stop! The pain! It's too much! Please stop! I can't take it anymore! 5 months later, on January 22nd, 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court made their landmark decision on Roe v. Wade, which legalized the right to abortion nationwide. But I was 17 in the summer of 1972. Perhaps if I had trusted my parents enough to tell them, things would have turned out differently. Perhaps they would have helped me after all. I was so naive, so stupid. I told no one where I was going. Perhaps if this had happened 6 months later, I wouldn't have bled out on that filthy kitchen table in Milwaukee. Perhaps then my parents would have known where to find me. Then perhaps they could have brought me home to be buried.
It affords me much gratification to meet my old comrades in arms, and to live over again the hardships imposed for the preservation and perpetuation of our free institutions. We believed then and believe now that we had a government worth fighting for, and if need be, dying for. On September 29, 1875, President Ulysses S. Grant stood before a meeting of Civil War veterans in Des Moines, Iowa, to deliver what is known as the Des Moines Address, imprinted in the Annals of Iowa State Historical Society, Volume 3. The men present had served under then Major General Grant. Grant was a brilliant general, but a less successful president. Most historians criticize his two-term administration for being corrupt and scandal-wrapped. The consensus on Grant tends to be that he meant well, but allowed himself to be manipulated by people who have only their own interests at heart. Not all historians feel this way, however. Jean Edward Smith of Marshall University argues that Grant has been underrated as a president. Despite his faults, there was one area where Grant did shine: separation of church and state. During his tenure, the idea of public education for the masses began catching on. schools were built and states began passing their first mandatory attendance laws. Using Stephen E. Toulmin's method of argument, we will examine President Grant's Des Moines address through his lens of claim, the assertion Grant wants to prove to his audience, grounds, evidence, and fact that support the claim, and finally warrant, whether implied or explicit, the assumption that links the grounds to the claim. We will also explore the speech's historical and current relevance as the battle for siphoning funds from public schools was waged and continues to be waged on both sides. In a republic like ours, where the citizen is the sovereign and the official the servant, where no power is exercised except by the will of the people, it is important that the sovereign, the people, should possess intelligence. The free school is the promoter of that intelligence, which is to preserve us as a free nation. If we are to have another contest in the near future of our national existence, I predict that the dividing line will not be Mason and Dixon's, but between patriotism and intelligence on one side, and superstition, ambition, and ignorance on the other. With these words, Ulysses S. Grant puts forth his claim that the free school is what will preserve the newly reunited country as a free nation. He knew his audience. Men who would lay down their lives for the preservation of the nation would also answer the call to ensure the sovereignty of it, committed to securing the people's right to a free and equal education. At the time of this speech, most Americans belonged to Protestant denominations, and many saw no problem in merging the church and the school. So most school days began with Protestant prayers and readings from the King James Version of the Bible. This did not please Roman Catholics, whose leadership suggested that the government provide them with tax money to operate a private Catholic school system. It was Ulysses S. Grant's idea that Protestant worship should be removed from schools, and he proposed that all public schools be legally non-sectarian and therefore welcoming to all students. Furthermore, he opposed any tax funding of religious schools. In 2022, the belief by many in power is that tax dollars should be used to support not only public education, but parochial, online, and specialized charter schools, often without adherence to state or national standards. Next, President Grant provides the grounds, or evidence needed to prove his claim to the audience, knowing that the blood coursing through the veins of true patriots will answer the call to strengthen the foundation of the Union they fought to preserve. Now, in the centennial year of our national existence, I believe it a good time to begin the work of strengthening the foundation of the house commenced by our patriotic forefathers 100 years ago at Concord and Lexington. Let us all labor to add all needful guarantees for the more perfect security of free thought, free speech, of free press, pure morals, unfettered religious sentiment, and of equal right and privileges to all men, irrespective of nationality, color, or religion. We encourage free schools and resolve that not $1 of money appropriated to their support, no matter how raised, shall be appropriated to the support of any sectarian school. Resolve that neither the state, nor nation, nor both combined, shall support institutions of learning insufficient to afford to every child growing up in the land the opportunity of a good common school education, unmixed with sectarian, pagan, or atheistical dogmas. With these grounds, Grant supports his claim that the free school is the promoter of that intelligence which is to preserve us as a free nation. And with it, he sets forth his warrant by establishing the link between the First Amendment freedoms that Americans value most and a public education system that guarantees the generations that follow have what he established in his claim: the need for the people who govern this land to have intelligence, that it is a combination of intelligence and patriotism that will win and sustain America's future. It was a visionary idea, but it may have been too far ahead of its time. In the late 19th century, many Catholic Church continued to press for public funding of their schools. Yet Grant continued to promote his idea in several forums, beyond his Des Moines address, during which, according to the Iowa Watch, the audience rose to its feet with applause. A few months later, in the State of the Union address, he proposed a constitutional amendment that would require all public schools to be secular. Although the amendment as Grant envisioned it never emerged, his view did eventually take hold. In fact, some Western states adopted constitutions explicitly stating that public education must be non-sectarian. Around the same time, state courts began striking down mandatory religious exercises in public schools, a course of action endorsed finally by the Supreme Court in 1962 and 63. Today, proponents of taxpayer funding of religious institutions ignore the fact that a public religious charter school is an oxymoron, according to Boston author Zachary Jason's book, The Battle Over Charter Schools in 2017. The First Amendment prohibits states from establishing religion, and public education is by definition inclusive. Public schools don't get to exclude people because they practice a different religion or do not practice one, nor do they get to propagate religion as science. The choice movement may wrap itself in the rhetoric of meeting students' needs and giving them the same opportunities as wealthy students. But public religious charter schools' real detriment is that they would subvert the overall public will to the whims of an ideological minority. Derek W. Black, the Ernest F. Collins Chair in Constitutional Law at the University of South Carolina and author of Schoolhouse Burning, contends that charters inadequately serve children with special needs and are more racially segregated than public schools. In fact, the NAACP has called for a national moratorium on expanding charters until there is less segregation and better accountability and transparency. Finally, by equating true patriotism with continued protections for a free and equal public education for all American students, President Ulysses S. Grant guaranteed the support of his present audience and many others in Congress. But the claim, grounds, and warrant established, and set forever the legacy that modern scholars contend will elevate his historical standing as a president who stood strong against the will of those who would establish a precedent for financing religious schools with public funds. He concludes, "Leave the matter of religion to the family altar, the church and the private school supported entirely by private contributions. Keep the church and state forever separate. With these safeguards, I believe the battles which created us will not have been fought in vain."
This world we live in, such crazy discrimination against sexuality and race. Our sexual preference for others is an issue. What does it matter if we walk away? Or behind closed doors who we take to bed? It does not affect you. But still, you judge us and target us with hate. You say people who are gay are an abomination, using the argument of your religious beliefs, but it has nothing to do with your faith. Discrimination against others is your own decision. Dorothy Parker, American humorist, and not one who most people would consider to be a gay icon. But perhaps she should be. I shall stay the way I am because I do not give a damn, is one of Miss Parker's pen lines that shows her independence and clever command of the language. But while no one actually knows if she was gay, or straight, or bisexual, other great lines from her include, "Heterosexuality isn't normal, it's just common. And all I need is room enough to lay a hat and a few good friends." Whatever she was an inspiration to me. an inspiration to many young people struggling to maintain a sense of self in a world that still wants them to maintain a sense of what the mainstream wants. But the current is changing. In Homophobia by Beza Kuda, Queer by Mojo Rising, and Dear Straight People by Denise Roman. 3 young poets take different paths to call out those who pass judgment with anger, empowerment, and humor. Newsflash! If you think gays should be treated differently, you're a homophobe. Homophobia is not just about bashing gays. If it disgusts you to see a same-sex couple kissing, then homophobe. If you agree that gays should not be allowed to marry, then homophobe. Have you not learned anything from our human history? Why can't you see we're all equal? There is absolutely no difference whether I love a girl or a guy. You've called me dyke and you've called me queer, but hey, watch out. I've heard lesbians can smell queer, and it's not so hard to see your dousing as some imbecilic defense to your ignorance. I've had to suffer for my love, so watch your mouth before you call me gay in that derogatory tone, as if my sexuality were a personal attack at you. I hate to break it to you, but I'm not an illness. I'm not screwing up the universe. But I will screw your sister for giving the address. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that a little too offensive? Well, maybe if you stopped attacking me. Come on, it's okay for your kids to watch sex on TV, but you cover their eyes the moment that sex becomes gay. What's your next step? To burn me at the stake? Because I've been condemned to hell 1,000,000 times, all on the same single crime. And that's love. Dear straight people, who do you think you are? Do you have to make it so obvious that I make you uncomfortable? Why do I make you uncomfortable? Do you know what makes me uncomfortable? Now we're both uncomfortable. Dear straight people, you're the reason we stay in the closet. You're the reason we even have a closet. I don't like closets. But you made the living room an unshared space, and now I'm feeling like a guest in my own house. Dear straight people, sexuality and gender, 2 different things, combined in many different ways. If you mismatch your socks, you understand. Dear straight people, I don't think God has a sexual orientation. But if she were straight, she'd be a dope ally. Why else would she invent rainbows? Dear straight women, I mean straight women, leave me alone. Dear straight men, if I'm flirting with you, it's because I think it's funny. Just laugh. Dear straight people, I am tired of proving my love is authentic. So I'm calling for reparations. When did you realize you were straight? Who taught you? Did it happen because your parents are divorced? Did it happen because your parents are not divorced? Did it happen because you sniffed too much glue in 5th grade? Dear straight people, why do you have to stare at me when I'm holding my girlfriend's hand like I'm about to rob you? Dear straight people, you make me want to rob you. Dear straight allies, thank you. More, please. Dear straight bullies, you're right. We don't have the same values. You kill everything that's different. I preserve it. Tell me what happened to Jorge Mercado. Sakia Gunn. Lawrence King. What happened to the souls alienated in between too many high school walls? Who planned the angles of their death in math class? Who imagined their funerals as ticker tape parades? Who thought the afterlife was more like an after party? Did you notice that hate is alive and well in too many lunchrooms? Taught in the silence of too many teachers, passed down like secondhand clothing from too many parents. Dear queer young girl, I see you. You don't want them to see you, so you change the pronouns in your love poems to him instead of her. I used to do that. Dear straight people, you make young poets, you make bad edits. Dear straight people, kissing my girlfriend in public without looking to see who's around is a luxury I do not fully have yet. But tonight I am drunk in my freedom. Grab her hand on the busiest street in Philadelphia, zip my fingers into hers, and press our lips firmly until we melt their stares into standing ovations. Imagine that we are in a sea of smiling faces, even when we're not. So I don't care. Go ahead and call me queer and shut your eyes and pray. Because when you open your eyes, I'll still exist. And I'll still kiss chicks. But what I won't do is take all of this. Because I'm not gay as in happy, and I'm not gay in that stupid adjective that you manufactured. No. I'm queer as in screw you!
This poem talks about second doubting yourself as you get older in life. The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot, from American's Favorite Poems, edited by Robert Pinsky and Maggie Dietz. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights and one-night cheap hotels, and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells. Streets that follow like a tedious argument, insidious intent, to lead you with an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit. In the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. The yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle upon the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, lingered upon the pools that stand in drains, let fall upon its back the soup that falls from chimneys, slipped by the terrace, noticed suddenly, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. And indeed there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. There will be time. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you need. There will be time to murder and create, and time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you and time for me, and time that for 100 indecisions, and for 100 visions and revisions, but for the taking of toast and tea. In the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. And indeed there will be a time to wonder, do I dare? And do I dare? Time to turn back and descend the stair. With a bald spot in the middle of my hair, they will say, how his hair is growing thin. My morning coat, my collar mounting firmly to the chin, my necktie rich and nice, but asserted by its simple pin. They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. Do I dare disturb the universe? In a minute there's time for decisions and then visions, which a minute will reverse. For I have known them all already, known them all. Have known the evenings, mornings, afternoons, have measured out my life with coffee spoons. I know the voices dying but dying fall beneath the music from a farther room. So how should I presume? And I have known the eyes already, known them all. The eyes that fix you in formulated phrase. And when I am formulated, sprawling on a pin, when I am pinned and wriggling on the wall, then how should I begin to spit out all the butt ends of my days and ways? And how should I presume? And I have known the arms already, known them all. Arms that are braceleted and white and bare, but in the lamplight down with light brown hair. Is it the perfume from a dress that makes me so digress? Arms that lie along a table or wrapped about a shawl? And should I then presume? And how should I begin? Shall I say, I have gone at dusk through narrow streets and watched the smoke that rises from the pipes of lonely men in shirt sleeves leaning out of windows? I should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas. And in the afternoon, the evening sleeps so peacefully, smoothed by long fingers, asleep, tired, or it malingers, stretched on the floor, here beside you and me. Should I, after teas and cakes and ices, have the strength to force the moment to its crisis? But though I have wept and fasted, wept and prayed, though I have seen my head, grown slightly bald, brought in upon a platter, I am no prophet, and here's no great man. I've seen the moment of my greatness flicker, and I've seen the ethereal footman hold my coat and snicker, and in short, I was afraid. And would it have been worth it, after all, after the cups, the marmalade, the tea, among the porcelain, among some talk of you and me? Would it have been worthwhile to have bitten off the matter with a smile, to have squeezed the universe into a ball, to roll it towards some overwhelming question, to say, I am Lazarus, come back from the dead, come back to tell you all, I shall tell you all. If one, settling pillow by her head, should say, that is not what I meant at all, that is not it, at all. And would it have been worth it, after all? Would it have been worthwhile, after the sunsets and the dooryards and the sprinkled streets, after the novels and the teacups, after the skirts that trail along the floor, and this and so much more? It is impossible to say just what I mean, but as if a magic lantern threw the nerves and patterns on a screen. Would it have been worthwhile if one, settling a pillow or throwing off a shawl, and turning toward the window, should say, that is not it at all, that is not what I meant at all? No, I'm not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. I have an attendant board, one that will do to swell a progress, start a scene or two, advise the prince no doubt, an easy tool, deferential, glad to be of use, political, cautious, and meticulous, full of high sentence, but a bit obtuse, at times indeed almost ridiculous, almost at times a fool. I grow old, I grow old. I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a peach? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I have heard the mermaids singing, each to each. I do not think that they will sing to me. I have seen them riding seaward on the waves, combing the white hair of the waves blown back when the wind blows the water white and black. We have lingered in the chambers of the sea, by seagulls wreathed with seaweed red and brown, till human voices wake us, and we drown.
In school, a teacher announced group projects. On the one hand, it sounds like a great idea. Everyone does their fair share. Except that one person. I think we all know that one person who never does any other work and makes us do it for them. Well, one day, the teacher caught them slacking off and told them this story. How the camel got his hump. An English story as found in the Gutenberg Project. Long ago, when the world was new and the animals were just beginning to work for men, there was a camel, and he lived out in the howling desert. And let me tell you something, he was a howler himself. But he lived there because he never wanted to do any work. And when anyone ever talked to him, all he said was, humph, and nothing else. On Monday, the horse came up to him. Camel, oh camel, come and trot like the rest of us. Humph. Bit rude. Why I did. So the horse went away and told the man. On Tuesday, the dog came to him. Oh, Camel, Camel, come and fetch and carry like the rest of us. I'll let you use my stick, my special scissor stick. Oh, okay, I'll go then. So the dog went away and told the man. On Wednesday, the ox came. Camel, oh Camel, come and plow like the rest of us. I didn't like your way. So the ox went away and told the man. The man was so sick and tired of hearing all these complaints about Camel that he decided to call a meeting. 303, I'm so very sorry of what's happening with Camel. I don't know what to do, so I'll just leave him be. But you're going to have to work double time to make up for it. But to diffuse the tension that I've made, I've decided to hold a party tomorrow at dusk. So the next day, just as dusk was beginning to set in, the three and the man had a party. And let me tell you something, it was really dull. Up until the djinn of all deserts came rolling up in his cloud of dust. He traveled that way because of his magic. Hey, what is going on? Why do you all look so sad? Yo, Camel, that's who. Oh, yes, I met him. You like him? No, we don't. That is why we're sad. Oh, well, I guess I kind of have to do something about that. Well, what does he say about this? Well, he says, and nothing else, and he won't fetch, and he won't carry, and he won't do anything. Well, guess I do have to do something. If you'll just kindly wait a minute, I will go, and I will fix this. So the djinn of all deserts went barreling across the desert in search for Camel. But when he finally found him, Camel was looking at his own reflection in a pool of water. Hey, Camel, what is going on? What is this deal with you not working? Because I kind of need to work. Okay, I'd hate to say this, but I need you to work. You are putting a lot of pressure on the other three. Okay, I am really mad at you. Do not say that again. And I want you to work. No sooner had Camel said that a third time, he saw his back that he was so proud of began puffing and puffing up into a great big hump. What is this thing on my back? Do you see that? That is the very own hump that you have created for yourself. Now, I want you to work, because today is Thursday and you've done no work since Monday. I want you to behave and go apologize to the three. Okay, I guess. 3, I'm sorry. And from that day to this, the camel always wears a hump. We call it hump now, not to hurt his feelings. And he has never since learned how to behave and has never caught up with the 3 days he missed at the beginning of the world. Now, even after the student heard the story, they still slacked off and finally got what they deserved, an F.
Eddie, get back in here. Eddie, get back in here. Don't leave us here. I mean it, Eddie. You're going to be in such a pile of trouble. Do you really think you're going to get away with this? Look, if you untie us, we promise not to tell anybody. But if you don't untie us, you'll be caught for sure. They'll be back in a few hours. Untie us or I'll scream at the top of my lungs. You've heard already. Children, you're so irresistible and lovable and monstrous. When Heidi and Lorna discover themselves to be outsmart and outmaneuvered by one such monster, they find themselves to be a little tied up. And time is running out to save themselves and save Lorna's babysitting career as well. Can the girls unravel this naughty situation and take back control of the demon child? Right there for Carson. I cannot believe this. You can't? What about me? When Eddie's parents get home, I'm going to be so fired. This is the last time I'll ever keep you company on one of your babysitting jobs. No problem there. When Johnson's finished telling all their friends about how miserable babysitter I am, there won't be any other babysitting jobs. Well, that's good, because I'm never doing you another favor of any kind, period. Favor? Favor? You're the one who needs help with biology. pulled you out of babysitting. You practically got on your hands and knees and begged me to tutor you after Eddie fell asleep.
How was I to know the demon child never sleeps?
Where do you think he went anyways?
Probably to get a camera that can show all of his friends he outwitted not one, but 2 babysitters.
I don't hear anything. Do you think he's alright?
Of course he's all right. He's probably eating a bowl of Victory ice cream.
He could get sick if he eats too much.
Or if we're lucky.
Heidi!
Oh, come on, Lorna. You know what I mean. I don't want the little monster to die. I just want him to get in a whole bunch of very deep trouble.
He's only 6 years old.
I bet Dracula was 6 years old once.
Heidi!
Listen to you. The little monster ties us up and leaves us. And you're defending him.
Well, if he hadn't suggested we play good guy, bad guy, none of this would have happened.
Oh yeah, who's the brilliant person who said, Eddie, be sure not to tie the knots too tight? Practically told him what to do.
How was I supposed to know? How was I supposed to predict that a 6-year-old could tie knots so tightly?
Lorna, would you cut it out? The more you jiggle, the tighter knots will get.
How do you know, Miss Science Wizard? The more we jiggle, the more we loosen the ropes.
And I came to you for help in biology.
Jiggling's not biology, Heidi. It's physics.
Jiggling's not physics, Lorna. It's stupid.
Well, if I'm so stupid, how come I'm getting an A in science and you're only getting a C?
All I know is that I can't be much dumber than you, because we're both tied together in these chairs.
Oh my gosh, what was that?
What was what?
That huge crash?
It's Demon Child. He's probably ransacking the kitchen looking for a blood for a bedtime snack.
Eddie! Eddie! You get out of that kitchen right now! Do you hear me, young man?
Would you quit yelling in my ear?
I can't help it. The door's on your side of the room. If I don't yell towards the door, how is he gonna hear me?
Well, let's switch sides.
Earth to Heidi, we're tied to these chairs.
Don't be cute. Just listen to me. If we push our backs together and lift up at exactly the same time, we could stand up enough to rotate our chairs.
You know, you might just have an idea there.
When I say go, push and lift.
Okay.
Ready? Get set?
Lift.
No. Your cue is go.
You don't have to get all happy about it.
Just chop and listen. Get ready. Get set. Lift. Woohoo! Not bad. What a team.
Yes, that was great. Let's do it again.
Okay. Ready, set, go.
Yes, we are so good, girl.
Lorna.
We are the best.
Lorna.
We are a team. We are.
We're back where we started.
That little stinker. I bet he's playing a whole maneuver when I get my hands on that little.
Lorna, what if I try to slide under the ropes?
Under?
Yeah, well, if I scroll myself down towards the floor and see if I can get my head and shoulders below the ropes.
Well, okay. I guess it's worth a try.
Oh boy,
What happened?
I'm stuck.
What do you mean stuck?
I'm stuck. As a trap, as a no can move.
How'd you get stuck, for heaven's sake?
My
You're what?
top.
What do you mean you're top?
My chest.
Your chest?
Do I hear an echo in here? My chest. The runs don't go over my chest.
Oh.
Lorna,
Yes?
this is really uncomfortable.
Well, can you try wiggling back up again?
I'll try. Oh, that's much better.
Hey, you just gave me an idea.
I sure hope it's better than the one I just had. I think I have rope ends, where.
What if we tried to squiggle the rope up over the back of the chairs instead of trying to squiggle under?
Say that again?
Okay, listen. Let's take the idea of moving at the same time and take the idea of squiggling. But instead of pushing our backs together, we wiggle.
I think we're both losing our minds.
Stay with me now. We wiggle our shoulders up and down, one at a time, in unison, while we slowly stand up. That way, we can lift our bodies and our shoulders up over the back of the ropes, back of the chairs.
I think I'm catching on.
Okay, right shoulder up. Hey, I said right shoulder.
This is my right.
Oh yeah, your right is my left. Let's try this again. Your left and my right up. Okay, other shoulder up. Good. Now let's start your rise, not too much. We don't lift the chair, we want to lift off the chair.
It's working. Okay, Lorna. Now we need to get our legs under our butts like we're kneeling, sort of.
Yes. Here, get these miserable ropes away from me. Just wait till I get my hands on Eddie. Let me at him.
Lorna, wait.
Get my hands on that little monster. That kid's going to have nightmares of life after when I'm finished with him.
Lorna, he's only 6 years old.
Heidi, you're the one who called the demon child. You're the one with roper. I think you clobbered the little rodent.
His parents are due home any minute. If we find any, clean up the kitchen and show the kid to his pajamas, you might still have a chance.
A chance for what?
A chance to salvage your babysitting career.
You have a point there.
And I'll tell the little monkey if he tells on you. Not only I'll tell mommy and daddy that he's misbehaved, but also stick my cousin Freddie on him, and he's 8.
So what's in it for you?
You tutor me in biology till I get a solid B.
You got yourself a deal.
Okay, take a deep breath. Ready?
Ready. Let's get him.
Oh, demon child.
4 years ago today, actually, I started a fashion blog called Style Rookie. Last September, I started an online magazine for teenage girls called RookieMag.com. And the title of my talk is Still Figuring It Out. And the MS Paint quality of my slides was a total creative decision in keeping with today's theme. And it has nothing to do with my inability to use PowerPoint. On May 12, 2012, 15-year-old Tabby Kevinson appeared in a TED Talk, specifically TEDx Teen, to talk about how difficult it is for girls to find strong female role models, and to explain the online space she built for and by teen girls to put a new, unapologetically uncertain, and complex face on modern feminism. The full talk and transcript can be found on TED.com//Tabby Kevinson. Kevinson is a fashion blogger and feminist who encourages her readers to embrace their own complexity and look good doing it. Using the Aristotle's rhetorical triangle of ethos, pathos, and logos, we will analyze Kevinson's message as well as its exigence. Kevinson's assertion is to create a dialogue with other young women who find themselves struggling to find real feminist role models, in a world where feminism itself is often confusing and misunderstood, and nearly always underrepresented in the media. In Aristotle's triangle, ethos refers to the ethical credibility of the speaker, pathos to the creation of an emotional response in the audience, and logos to the elements that provide evidence through which the speaker and audience may come together in a logical conclusion. First to establish Kevinson's ethos at the time of this TED Talk, she had come to public attention at the age of 11 with her fashion blog, Style Rookie. By the age of 15, she has shifted her focus to pop culture and feminist discussion. Her newly launched website is called simply Rookie. At 11, she was drawing nearly 30,000 readers a day, and because of the blog's success, Kevinson was invited to attend New York and Paris Fashion Week events, was commissioned to write articles for Harper's Bazaar and Barnes.com. Now 25, she has a successful acting and music career while continuing to write about feminist issues. Kevinson begins by touching on the need for television and film to create multidimensional female characters. So I edit this site for teenage girls. I am a feminist and kind of pop culture nerd. I think a lot about what makes a strong female character. And, you know, movies and TV shows have influence. So I think the question, what makes a strong female character, often goes misinterpreted. And instead, we get these two-dimensional superwomen. But they're not strong characters who happen to be female. They're completely flat. The problem with this is that people expect women to be that easy to understand. And women are mad at themselves for not being that simple, when in actuality, women are complicated. Women are multifaceted. Not because women are crazy, but because people are crazy, and women happen to be people. So the flaws are the key. I'm not the first person to say this. What makes a strong female character is a character who has weaknesses, who has flaws, who is maybe not immediately likable, but eventually relatable.
Continuing with the speaker's ethos, Kevinson's words and tone are both appropriate and suitable for the audience of primarily teen and young adult women, for whom it was intended. And in the next section, she adds another layer to the ethos by demonstrating a respect for another viewpoint, while also beginning to establish the logos of her appeal by giving specific examples of the very few offerings of realistic female protagonists in the media. I don't like to acknowledge a problem without also acknowledging those who work to fix it. So just wanted to acknowledge shows like Mad Men and movies like Bridesmaids, whose female characters or protagonists are complex and multifaceted. But I still feel that there are some types of women who are not represented that way. And one group of focus on today is teens, because I think teenagers are especially contradictory and still figuring it out. In the 90s, there were Freaks and Geeks and My So-Called Life, and their characters, Lindsay Weir and Angela Chase, the whole premise of the shows were just them trying to figure themselves out, basically. But those shows only lasted a season each, and I haven't really seen anything like that on TV since. So around the time when I started watching those TV shows, I was ending middle school, starting high school, and I was trying to reconcile all of these differences that you are told you can't be when you're growing up as a girl. You can't be smart and pretty. You can't be a feminist who is also interested in fashion. You can't care about clothes if it's not for the sake of what other people, usually men, will think of you. By speaking to young women about the mixed messages society sends to them, an emotional connection, or ethos, is established between Kevinson and her audience. The 3 television shows and 1 movie mentioned in the previous section are vivid examples that serve to engage the listeners' imaginations and to which the audience can relate. Continuing in that vein, Kevinson draws on the somewhat illogical logos of the misconceptions of feminism and invites her audience to dissect those misconceptions with her. So I was trying to figure all that out, and I felt a little confused. And I wanted to start a website for teenage girls that was not this kind of one-dimensional, strong character empowerment thing. Because I think the one thing that can be very alienating about a misconception of feminism is that girls then think that to be a feminist, you have to live up to being perfectly consistent in your beliefs, never being insecure, never having doubts, having all the answers. And this is not true. And actually, reconciling all the contradictions I was feeling became easier once I understood that feminism was not a rule book, but a discussion, conversation, a process. I wanted to start this publication for teenage girls, and I asked people to submit their writing, photography, whatever, to be a member of our staff. I got about 3,000 emails. My editorial director and I went through them and put together a staff of people, and we launched last September. And this is an excerpt from my first editor's letter, where I say that, rookie, we don't have all the answers. We're still figuring it out too. But the point is not to give the girls the answers, and not even give them permission to find the answers themselves, but hopefully inspire them to understand that they can give themselves that permission. They can ask their own questions, find their own answers, all of that. Rookie, I think we've been trying to make it a nice place for all of that to be figured out. Tabby Kevinson managed to appeal to her audiences online and through this TED Talk with logic and emotion, but also with a relatable style and sense of humor that made her a popular blogger throughout her youth and teen years. She concluded her talk with a nod to her favorite popular musical artist and another shot of humor. So what I'd like you to take away from my talk, the lesson of all of this, is to just be Stevie Nicks. Like, that's all you have to do. Because my favorite thing about her, other than, like, everything, is that she has always been unapologetically present on stage and unapologetic about her flaws and about reconciling all of her contradictory feelings, and she makes you listen to them and think about them. And, yeah, so please be Stevie Nicks. Thank you.
I can't believe this is real.
Me either. My sister gave it to me and told me to only share it with my best friend. But we can't tell anyone about it. You understand?
I promise. It's what people have dreamed of since the dawn of time.
If there were only a how-to manual for dealing with the opposite gender.
Imagine knowing what to say and do at all times in all situations.
And avoiding those pitfalls we're all bound to stumble into.
Julie and Susan discovered their relationship Bible, the boy book.
And their lives and loves will never be the same.
The boy book.
By John C. Higgins.
Look at the cover, the boy book.
This is so cool. Now I know why they say girls mature faster than boys.
It's because of this book.
Cool. Well, let's read it. Oh, here's a good chapter. Phrases you have to use when turning down a guy for a date. Wow, insert name. You're so nice. You're just like a brother to me. That's a good one.
Yeah, let him down easy. Here, let me see it. I'd love to go on a date with you, insert name. But I'm hoping to get a phone call from the guy I like.
Ooh, not too subtle, but effective.
Yeah. Hey, look at this one. It's bolded and underlined.
It says something too. Only used in extreme circumstances. I like you as a friend. It says for maximum benefit, pause in between I like you and as a friend to lead the boy on. Ooh!
This book rocks.
Totally. Look, the book recommends doing some exercises for practice.
Like a workbook?
I guess so, yeah. Here's the first exercise. Playing hard to get. Okay, do you want to be the boy or the girl?
I'll be the boy.
Okay, you like me and I like you. But I pretend I don't like you to get you to like me more.
Is that what the book says?
Yup,
That doesn't make sense.
it's in the book.
Okay, alright, I'm gonna be the boy now.
What's up, Julie? Want to go out with me?
As if.
Well, I thought you liked me. Valerie been put and said you liked me during gym class.
In your dreams.
But
Talk to the hand, not to the face.
Wow, that was great. I felt like a total idiot.
That's what the book says happened. Do you want to try it?
Yeah, I'm the girl now. Okay, this next exercise is called, you know he's trying to ask you out, but you let him stammer on and separate just for the fun of it.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll be the geeky type. Hi, Sue. I was wondering if you wanted to maybe...
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Like I said, I was thinking we could maybe...
I can't hear you.
I said I was hoping we could spend some time.
What's your point?
Well, I was getting to that. I really like you, and I thought I saw you looking at me in chemistry class yesterday. So I thought we could...
After you made him sweat as long as possible, try to embarrass him as well. Oh my gosh, are you asking me out?
Well, yeah.
Let's see. It says refer back to... Oh yes. Sorry, geek guy. I like you as a friend, but...
Ah!
That really worked.
Totally.
And I felt kind of good and I threw her crew away.
Well, girls have it tougher than boys. We have to wait until they ask us, and if we don't like the guy, we have to feel guilty for saying no.
Wait, no you don't.
Don't feel guilty for
saying no.
I love this book!
Me too, let's keep going.
Okay,
Body language is essential with the guy. Let him know how you feel with the touch or look.
if that makes sense. Want to try it out?
I'll look at you or touch you and you pretend you're a guy. Tell me what signal you think I'm sending.
Okay. You want to have my baby?
Too much?
Unless you're on the Jerry Springer show.
Okay, I'll turn it down. How's this?
Very nice, coy, flirtatious, but subtle.
Greg, now you try one and I'll be the guy.
Okay, I'll try the touch thing. Tell a joke, and I'll pretend I like you.
Okay. What did Snail say where he was riding the turtle's back?
I don't know. What?
Whoopee.
That's so funny! You're so funny!
Calm down there, Chuck.
Puckles?
Too much?
Unless you're trying to steal his wallet, try again.
Okay.
Snail says whoopee. That was great. Did you come up with the hair thing?
No, it was in the book. Guys love it when girls play with their hair.
Is that true?
That's what it says here in the flirting without words section.
Gotta remember that one. What else does it say?
When walking with a boy you have a crush on, stay silent and stare at him until you've passed him by. Then whisper something to your friends, giggle, and look back at him.
This dry boy's crazy.
Silent, stare, whisper, giggle. Got it. What's next?
Calling the boy you like or pretending you didn't.
That's a good idea. Can I be the girl?
Yep, I'll be the guy.
Bling, bling.
Yeah?
Oh, Steve.
Yeah?
Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. I must have the wrong number. I meant to call my friend Stephanie, and I must have gotten you. This is Julie. I'm in your algebra class.
Yeah, hi, what's up? Did you stare at me today, then whisper and giggle?
Why, yes, I did.
That was really cool. Did you want to go out with me?
Sure.
Oh, here's a good reminder. If one of his parents picks up, always try to be extremely polite to make a good impression. Brown knows all you can, exaggerate, and lie if necessary. Let's try that. This time I'll be the girl and ABC's mom.
Okay.
Ring, 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 ring.
Hello.
Oh, hello, Mrs. C's mom. This is Sue from C's algebra class.
Why, hello, dear.
Hello, ma'am. I wanted to let you know that I bought some of your delicious chocolate macadamia nuts at the bake sale, and they were delicious.
Why, thank you, Susan. How sweet.
And you have a beautiful house. My dad used to be a landscaper, and he says your shrubberies are the best in town.
Really? Well, I must tell my husband. He'll be thrilled.
Okay, I'm gonna go now and have another one of your delicious cookies. And, oh, by the way, could you please tell your son Stephen that I called to say hello?
Certainly, dear. Stephen, that lovely girl Susan from your algebra class just called. She seems very sweet. Why don't you ask her out? What was that? No, I'm sure she doesn't think you're like a brother to her.
Good reaction.
Yeah, well done. What else does the book say? Skip ahead.
Whoa,
What is it?
this is huge.
What? Tell me.
Get him to say I love you first.
Ooh, that takes up 2 whole chapters.
Do you think a couple of guys from school are awesome were reading from the girl book?
You mean, is there another book like this one for guys that says stuff like, never call a girl right after a date or you'll look like a wuss?
Yeah, something like that. You think guys might be able to get one step ahead of us girls somehow? Nah.
The years I have lived here in this prison, and I still remember that night like it was yesterday. It was the facility explosion. I remember the boilers that exploded, the men screaming, the intense heat. I managed to escape that night, but I was the only one. Then I was charged with every crime in the book and used as a nuclear weapon by unscrupulous men. Prisoner B62 is not his actual name. While transporting nuclear warheads, a single push of a button sends a facility up in flames, and he is the only worker to escape the facility. Put on trial for crimes he didn't commit. But prisoner B62 has a special power. With a little bit of uncontrolled anger, he could end all life on Earth. Prisoner B62. I'm assigned to transport warheads, and as I near the door at the last step, I hear a faint hiss. It grows louder and louder, with the sound of the boilers under pressure. I look behind me, and I see a cloud of heat and fire so intense, it feels as if it would melt my skin. The nuclear warheads explode, and the pressure of the explosion throws me outside the building. I wake up, and a worker is standing next to me. I try to get his attention by pulling on his pant leg, but I can't move. I try to speak, but can't. I reach for my throat, but all I feel is a shredded uniform collar. Another man turns my way, and he comes closer, and closer. But all he does is kick me with his boot. He turns and leaves, and I want to yell, but he just keeps walking. The damn fool never even looked at me to see if I was alive. When I wake again, they are starting to remove the bodies. A worker is picking me up and dragging me towards the pile of bodies. I try to speak, but can only gasp. Help me. He drops me, and he starts shouting, "He's alive! He's alive!" They put me on a stretcher, and they begin to poke and prod at me. They scan my body with a device, and someone looks at it and murmurs, "That's impossible." They rescan, and the doctors ordered everybody to clear the area. They leave the device beside the stretcher on the tray. I strain myself over the side of my bed to see it. The scanner is a radiation device. Reading can't be right. It can't be right. It was on a level 3 times the amount of the bombs that were dropped on Japan. They come back in and stick something in my arm to sedate me, and I feel myself slipping into unconsciousness. I wake up, and scientists and men in decontamination suits flood into the room. They roll in a computer monitor where I see government officials and high-ranking military officers talking about what happened at the facility last night. They were trying to blame me for it, threatening to charge me for sabotage against the facility. I scream at them. I didn't sabotage the facility. It was a total accident. They don't buy my story, and then I'm sentenced to death row. I wait there for weeks, wondering if they'd forgotten about me. I'm disturbed by 2 men who are talking quite loudly. I can only make out words of what they were saying, but it sounds like the government wants to manipulate me into a human nuke. Now, I'm enraged, and I start pounding my fist on the glass. Multiple guards rush in, but I break through, and they stare at me in disbelief. Breaking out of that building was easy. No man stands a chance to me and my power. I run for what seemed like hours. I stop in the distance, and I stop to catch my breath. And in this distance, I can hear the howling of dogs. It didn't take them long to track me. I run through the night, only stopping to eat wild mushrooms I find in the woods, not knowing if they're poisonous or not. I have to eat them. I'm starving and running out of steam. An hour later, I'm on my hands and knees, vomiting my guts out. The howling of dogs is getting closer and closer. I have to move. But the mushrooms paralyze my body. The hounds get closer and closer until the sound of footsteps surrounds me. The damn military has found me. They have guns pointed every direction, but they don't shoot. They were too afraid of me. The general approaches, laughing. Looks like someone got sick. That infuriates me, and I grab a soldier by the throat, and searing the flesh from his bones, and disintegrating the bones themselves as he drops dead at my feet. The general orders the men to open fire, but the bullets can't penetrate me. They melt harmlessly against my radioactive skin. Then, a sickening vapor hits my nose and my throat, and I end up in a steel military transporter, strapped down by thick titanium bands and a bag over my head. Whenever I begin to regain my sense, the truck fills again with the sickening vapor. I end up in an elevator going down and down and down until we're deep underground. At last, they finally take that cloth bag off my head, and I am in the cell, reinforced with some kind of glass and metal I've never seen before. I sit there alone with no one to talk to, and crazy thoughts start running through my head. I start thinking about my wife, my children, and my family. And I think back to the day of the explosion. Why didn't I die in that explosion? If I had, I wouldn't be stuck in this damn place if I would have just laid there, waiting for my dog tag to be ripped off my body and sent back to my family. The sound of footsteps interrupts my thoughts. It's the general, coming down all his way just to read me a paper that I have been found guilty of sabotage, and I would be put to death immediately. Then he smiles, and that smile sends a chill down my burning blood and bones. Or perhaps you'd like an alternative. You see, you are a gifted man. The power you hold inside you now has the potential to destroy all life on Earth, or to destroy those targets that we choose. It was a miracle that you weren't killed along with the others, or a simple act of fate that saved you to do the will of the righteous. Either way, you have a choice: execution, or as a new assignment, as a human nuke. I made my choice so long ago, and I've done horrible things for the sake of my country, for the sake of survival. But every day, every torturous day, I ask myself, why didn't I die in that explosion? Why didn't I choose execution? Why hasn't the radiation killed me? And how much longer do these fools think they can contain my power?
Silent, but deadly. Radiation was around when life on Earth began with single-celled organisms. From the discovery of polonium and radium in 1898, let's delve into those radioactive elements and their effects. Then discover for ourselves just how those effects took terrifying hold within human bodies before their real danger was realized. And finally, how those early discoveries gave the world some of the miracles of modern medicine. Radiation, released from elements like uranium, was mostly harmless life on Earth's surface until people started mining. In 1789, uranium became the first radioactive element to be discovered by man, but polonium is the most well-known radioactive element, due to its high energy output. Radioactive elements emit ionizing radiation, which is emitted while an element is decaying. An element's half-life can range from milliseconds to billions of years, so it is impossible to predict when an atom will stop producing radiation. A radioactive element decays until it loses enough atoms to become a new element. If that element is radioactive, then the process starts over again and repeats until the element becomes stable and stops emitting radiation. Ionizing radiation is either alpha or beta particles, or gamma radiation. Alpha particle radiation is the most common form, and not harmful to most life because of its low energy, barely able to pierce a piece of paper. Beta particles have more energy, and more energy to penetrate. That means enough energy to penetrate the skin. Gamma rays have the most energy, enough to not only penetrate the skin, but then use the rest of their energy to inflict serious damage. These rays are so small that they can go into cells and knock DNA out of place, making it responsible for most organ cancers and organ failures during radiation disasters. Now, let's look to the discovery of some of those worst cases, beginning with the fates of Madame Curie herself, the women known as the Radium Girls, and a young Yale graduate. Marie Curie discovered polonium and radium, and was the first woman to win 2 Nobel Prizes in science. Her knowledge of radium was a key to a basic change in our understanding of matter and energy. Her work not only influenced the development of a fundamental science, but also ushered in a new era in medical research and treatment. During World War I, she procured X-ray equipment, vehicles, auxiliary generators, and developed mobile radiography units, which came to be popularly known as Petite Curies. In 1915, Curie produced hollow needles containing radium emanation, a colorless radioactive gas given off by radium, later identified as radon, to be used for sterilizing infected tissue. At the time of her research, it was not known how harmful ionizing radiation could be. She regularly handled radioactive materials, carrying test tubes in her pockets and keeping them in her desk drawers, even experimenting with X-rays on herself. Marie Curie died in 1934 at the age of 66 from aplastic pernicious anemia, a condition she developed after years of exposure to radiation through her work. But what she left behind helped us greatly with discovering and creating modern medical treatments and proper procedures for handling radiation. Today, we know that radium products are incredibly harmful, even fatal. But in the early 20th century, radium paint was used on many household objects, and no one gave a second thought until factory workers exposed to radium paints began to die. Several women, known as the Radium Girls, fought a legal battle against the U.S. Radium Company. They eventually won the battle, but at a great cost. In 1922, Grace Fryer grew increasingly weak and her teeth fell out. Her doctor thought it might have something to do with the factory and asked the company to investigate. U.S. Radium sent a young doctor named Flynn from Columbia University and one of the doctor's colleagues. They declared Fryer to be in fine health. However, Flynn was not a doctor at all. He was a toxicologist working for U.S. Radium. His colleague was one of the company's vice presidents, and together they attempted to organize a cover-up. Fryer's jaw became terribly swollen, and her skin was so thin that it split easily. Most distressingly, her jawbone began to crumble when touched. Another woman, Amelia Maggio, had her jaw deteriorate so severely that it had to be completely removed. This was later called radium jaw. Despite this, the companies that used radium paints remained silent. Using their huge profits, they convinced doctors to lie about the causes of death, often calling it syphilis, not only excusing the deaths as unrelated to the factory work, but also tarnishing the women's reputations. While some of the women were dying and others fighting a grueling court battle, Eben Byers, a wealthy young Yale graduate, was winning many U.S. amateur golf championships. In 1927, he injured his arm. Although the wound wasn't severe, it was painful. At the time, it was believed that radium was actually healthy. Radioactive medicine was all the rage. And Byers' doctor, who, like the doctor who falsified reports that cased the Radium Girls, turned out not to be a doctor at all, but a man who had dropped out of medical school. This fake doctor recommended a new type of medicine named Radithor, which was made of radium dissolved in water for the pain. Byers started taking a spoonful a day, but the high radiation in it gave him great energy, and because of that he became quickly addicted. After a year, he was reported to be consuming 3 bottles of Radithor a day. He consumed so much Radithor that the radiation killed all the cells inside of his mouth and caused his jaw to deteriorate. He didn't feel any pain because the radiation had also killed all the nerves within his mouth. In 1931, his lower jaw disconnected and dropped from his face, and by 1932, the radiation killed him. 30 years later, Byers' body was exhumed to be studied, and his remains are still highly radioactive. Just as the exhumation proved that the Radium Girls continued to glow in their coffins. It's been nearly 100 years since these women were infected with radium poisoning, but the radiation is far from gone. In 2019, when a scientist with a Geiger counter walked over the grave of Amelia Maggio, it showed that her body is still radioactive and still glowing in the grounds this day. The fate of Byers, the Radium Girls, and Marie Curie serve as a grim reminder of the suffering endured. But of course, without the knowledge gained through Curie's work and the suffering of others, we wouldn't have the life-saving measures we have today. Now, medical procedures help detect and treat diseases by using a small amount of radioactive material, called a radiopharmaceutical. Some are used with imaging equipment to detect disease and can also be placed inside the body near a cancerous tumor to shrink or destroy it. A positron emission tomography, or PET scan, is an example of a nuclear medicine procedure used to diagnose disease. A PET scan uses uses a radioactive substance that is released into the bloodstream and travels to a specific organ. Doctors use a special camera to watch how the tracer moves and use the images to detect problems with the organ. Radiopharmaceuticals are also used to treat disease by shrinking tumors and killing cancerous cells, or to surgically place small radioactive seeds near or inside a cancerous tumor. The radiation from the seeds help destroy the nearby cancer cells. And these are just a few examples of the incredible advances in medicine due to Madame Curie's long ago discoveries. It's hard to believe how far we've come since the days of Evan Byers and the Radium Girls, or how a century of knowledge came to turn their tragedies into some of modern medicine's miracles.